since I just did my makeup all red themed for a different video, I figured let's also use the opportunity, since I have this look down, to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, because they all wear red in that book, in that TV show, and I read that book recently, and let's talk about it. Now, I will preface this by saying I have not watched the TV series, have not seen it, so this is exclusively thoughts on the book itself by Margaret Atwood. Just the book, no TV show thoughts. The Handmaid's Tale. Now, if you know nothing about that book, first of all, it's a dystopian novel. Normally, I don't really read dystopian novels. It doesn't really have anything to do with like them not being good or anything, because this was a very good book. It's just that they make me depressed. And usually when I read, I'm looking to escape my current life to somewhere better. And usually when you're reading dystopian books, I'm escaping to a worse world, which isn't usually what I'm going for. I know, shocker, but it's not. However, I read this book for my book club and I did enjoy it. Now I'm going to be talking about this book like you don't know what I'm talking about, okay? So the main character is named Offred, or Offred. I feel like in my head I said Offred a lot, but I know it's supposed to be like Offred. I don't know. Anyway, because this whole dystopian world, it's like set in, I believe, the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, where a new regime has taken place where procreating is a big deal. I'm trying to explain this concisely without being inaccurate, so forgive me, I'm not going to go into all of the nuances of the book, but the general setup is that there are certain women who can sign up to be handmaids, and they wear the all red dress and they have their little like bonnet thing on, but they are assigned to various men, commanders, where they try to conceive a baby from them, because in their world, due to radiation and like nuclear power plants and things like that, the fertilization rate has plummeted. So now children are coveted, they're desired, this is what you want, but people now need to be like covered up, like there really isn't any self-expression, and the main character's name is Offred because it's whatever man they're assigned to, it's of Fred, as in like she's owned by Fred. You get what I'm saying? So women don't really have a lot of rights, and the men have to like earn a woman to then attempt to procreate with her. It's like a whole thing. But Offred is a handmaid, and she has her commander that she is assigned to. And this commander does have a wife, but they are older, and so this wife cannot produce a child anymore. However, when they have their ritual to try to get Offred pregnant, the wife will like sit behind her and pretend that she is the one being fertilized. I feel like I have to talk about this very strangely because this is YouTube, but you know what I mean. But like Offred is the one that's having this happen to her. And as the story goes, we kind of learn that Offred isn't a very reliable character, and she's very complacent. She's not happy with the way things are, but she's not really doing anything about it. And we learn a bit of backstory that she did have a husband before this named Luke, and they have a daughter together, but she's been separated from them and has no idea where they are, if they're alive, if they're okay, no clue. But why I say she's an unreliable narrator is that sometimes how she talks about her husband Luke is very not consistent. Like in the beginning, she'll talk about how she wonders where he is, if he's okay, she wants to be with him, that's her husband. And then there are other times where she admits that she never even thought that she would stay with him, like he would continue to be her husband if like this was normal times. She almost admits that she most likely would have gotten a divorce from him and moved on to somebody else. And then there are other times where no, Luke is her husband and she needs him. But anyway, with her current situation, you only get so many tries to try and get pregnant, and she doesn't have that many more tries to go. But the commander she's assigned to is a little older, and so the fertility rate is not looking all that good, but she's very complacent. She does the rituals. She tries her best, I guess. The whole story is more about things that happen to her rather than things she does. Like the commander wants to start seeing her outside of just the fertilization ritual, which is not something that he should be doing. But they play Scrabble together. She like sneaks into his office when his wife doesn't know about it. Things like that. So she's not exactly following the rules. But in return, it gets to a point where the wife just wants a baby. All of the wives of the commanders just want a baby. They hate the handmaids, but they want the baby from what the handmaids do and stand for. And so the wife gets tired of Offred not getting pregnant. So she's like, hey, they have a younger another man that works for them, and his name is Nick, and she's like, why don't you start trying with him to see if you can get pregnant? And she does. So she's kind of doing sneaky things for both the commander and the wife, but it's not because like she wants to, it's just because these things happen to her and she kind of goes along with them. But again, another thing that makes her an unreliable narrator is that she is regularly now having these sessions, let's call them sessions, with this Nick character. She describes Nick like he doesn't care about her, that this is just a transaction and there are no feelings there, anything like that, but she seems to be falling for him, but he's not doing anything in return for her. However, she gets to a point where she thinks she is with child. This is near the end of the book. I'm kind of jumping around a lot, but bear with me. She thinks she is with child, and obviously it would be Nick's. Guards come to take her away, and when she's freaking out, thinking that like, oh, she's going to be executed or something like that, Nick kind of whispers into her ear that basically he's saving her, and it's like, well, if Nick actually didn't care about her, he wouldn't have done this. So another reason why she's kind of unreliable, because I thought you said he didn't care about you, but like he's clearly trying to save you. But the way that this world is set up, I can definitely see how it'd be a strain on your mental health, and you probably wouldn't be thinking straight, and I think that's absolutely the case for Offred. But the whole time the book gave me a very icky feeling, which I think was the point. Like that was the point, right? Because we don't want a society like this, but there were a lot of aspects about the book that made you correlate it to today's society, and that is just very, very icky. Like the obsession of all of the handmaids getting pregnant and with fertilization, and that the babies are so sacred. It's just all of the talks about women's rights in today's day and age and abortion rights. You can really relate to that because you don't know what all is happening in this world, and it gives you such an icky feeling that like, oh, what if we're heading in that direction? That is so scary. That is so scary. And the fact that all the women there, like the handmaids, are treated like an object and a vessel for this baby than like anything else. It's just like, oh. Although there were some things in the book that like took me out of it, and for me almost gave me like a comedic relief. Like, I know they weren't intended to be that way, but that's just how it was for me. For example, the characters, not just Offred, a lot of characters are like, oh my god, I need a cigarette. Like the obsession of needing a cigarette was so funny to me, because it was definitely like, ah yes, this was written a while ago, because people don't care about cigarettes as often as that anymore. Because how often they brought up cigarettes was just like, wow, okay. I mean, I get it, it's stressful, but damn. But Offred has no idea who to trust, who she can even remotely let her guard down around or not, because everybody is kind of out for themselves, because you're not allowed to smoke, you're not allowed to drink, you're not allowed to do a lot of things, and if you're caught doing them, it could be the end of you. And so you don't want to let anybody else know if you're not acting the way you should be. But I will say, as a reader, it was very annoying that Offred does literally nothing. Like I said, everything happens to her. She doesn't do anything. And I hate that. Like, she doesn't even try, she doesn't even attempt to change anything. She just goes along with everything. Now, the most infuriating part is that when the handmaids go to town, they have to walk in pairs of 2. And her assigned pair is named Offglen. And it turns out Offglen is part of this like resistance that is trying to break free of this society and change how things are set up. And once Offred learns what Offglen is about, and that she's trying to do something to make this world better, Offred does almost nothing to help or do anything for her at all. I mean, she doesn't turn her in or anything, but when Offglen finds out that Offred is hanging out with her commander outside of like the fertilization ritual, Offglen tries to encourage her to be like, see if there are any notes in his desk, any information you can find. We're really trying to like change the way things are. Like, even if you could do just something small like that, that would be so helpful. Offred is not interested in doing that. She's very indifferent. She doesn't bother. She doesn't care. And that was so infuriating, that Offglen is telling you what to do and how to help and attempt to make make things better, and you're not taking any of it. But then you keep wondering, oh my god, is my husband and my daughter okay? I hope they're alive and well. I wish I could see them. I want to see them. I hope they're okay. But then she does nothing when Glenn is trying to figure things out and better things and be this resistance, and she does nothing to try to help that out, to then hopefully be able to be reunited with her family again. Like, just nothing. That does not happen. Everything that happens to her. She does not cause anything. And that was like so infuriating. Like, oh, Glenn is literally telling you what to do and you're not doing it. Which I guess that's the biggest difference from what I hear about the TV show, is that Offred in the TV show actually takes charge and tries to make a difference and do things, and in the book she does not do that. She does not do things. The ending of the book is also very ambiguous, where you don't really know what happens to Offred. Like, for example, I already told you that she suspected that she was with child and that it was Nick's child, and so then guards escort her off the premises, but Nick whispers in her ear to basically like, trust them, it's okay, because it was Nick's way of what we can assume as in getting Offred out of that house so she can be safe and have his kid and be out of this terrible situation, is what you can assume. But it just ends with her being escorted out, and that's it. You don't know what happened. Were those guards actually working with him? Was Nick being double-crossed? Was she actually being taken somewhere unsafe? Or was Nick double-crossing Offred? We have no idea. The only thing is that at the end of the book, there's this like historical notes section, and I was listening to the audiobook, and so I thought that this was almost like a TED Talk or some sort of seminar where they discuss the book, but in actuality it is actually part of the book, and I didn't realize that until the professor that was leading this session said something that I was like, that's not our history, and then I realized, oh, this is actually still part of the book. And so this last section of the book, these historical notes, it's this professor talking about this documentation of Offred's experience, and it goes into detail where this professor explains they have all of this written record that Offred wrote down at some point, but that's where it ends, and they ultimately don't know what happened to Offred, because now this is in the future where this regime and this society has since fallen and collapsed, and now they're studying it in a historical sense, but they don't actually know what happened to Offred. All that they say is that they can assume that she must have gotten out and was okay enough to be able to write this down, because the handmaids weren't allowed to read or write. So she couldn't have done this while she was with the commander, so this had to have been after she got out and Nick had her taken somewhere, so she had enough time to at least write her experience down, but after that they have no idea what happened. They can only assume that she probably fled, didn't have enough time to continue writing her story, and somebody just happened to find it and now they have it as a historical text. But it kind of ends in a, yeah, we don't know what happened to Offred. We assume she got out, but we don't know. Which I find very interesting about the open-endedness of it, which I guess in theory that makes it even more realistic, because I mean, how many historical mysteries do we have in this day and age? We have quite a few where like we're just never gonna know the answers, and in this fictional world that's just another one of those mysteries where what happened to Offred they're never gonna know. Now from just a reader standpoint, I'm like, I want to know what happened to her, hello, but I understand from the impactful author standpoint, like this really does help to get the point across. But how the society is set up definitely gave me such an icky feeling, like basically from the halfway point all the way to the end I was like, ugh, because the society is just so backwards and not good, and I would not want to be a part of it, which is the point. It's a dystopian novel. She was trying to deliver a society that we would not want to be a part of, and she definitely did that with this dystopian novel. I do not want to be a handmaid. I do not want to be a part of that at all. Now this book has so much depth, and I'm sure the same could be said about the TV series, which again, I haven't actually watched the TV show, I've only read the book. So I could have definitely dove into it more than I did, but I'm not trying to present a whole dissertation here. I just wanted to lightly cover it and talk about my experience reading it and my thoughts. And so if you have read it, what did you think? If you've watched the TV show, what did you think? If you've done both, how would you compare and contrast the two in terms of your preferences? preferences and what you liked, what you didn't. I definitely feel like I'd probably enjoy the TV show because it sounds like Offred actually does more things, because there were times where Offred really infuriated me in the book from just being so complacent and unwilling to do anything. Like, come on girl, you gotta give me something, and she gave me nothing every time without fail. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.